We're a minute early, so the ticket stop is now. All right. All right. I'm here. I know I'm here. Welcome if you're watching my rebroadcast. Thank you so much for being a part. Thank you for taking the time to watch. Listen, you don't want to let go of particular post. Stay with this post because we're talking about something that takes your spirituality out of the clouds, brings it down to earth with human beings, and it relates to your relationship, who you love, who you don't love, your finances, your money, your health, what's happening with COVID-19, whether you're protesting or not, all of these things, it relates to everything in your life, because I believe that spiritual things that don't connect with natural everyday things, like my grandmother said, is not worth a hill of beans. It's you're too heavenly minded to be too earthly good. So that's what our posts are about. That's what these broadcasts are about. And this is called my Master Key class. A Master Key class. A Master Key is a key that one key fits all doors. I don't believe you have to have a whole ring full of keys to figure out everything about God that you want to know. I think if you can have just one key, and that key can be used to fit the door. I believe that the kingdom of God, I want you to imagine a beautiful hotel. You walk in one door, and in that hotel, there are many doors. Imagine you walk in there and you go to the front desk, you get a key. They give you one key and they say you can go anywhere you want to. Well, what room do I go sleep in? Anyone you want. What? This whole hotel is yours. That's what the kingdom of heaven or the kingdom of God is. It is a hotel with many rooms. In my Father's house are many mansions. In other words, in a house there are mansions. In a hotel there are many rooms. And each room is an experience. Each room, it could be about peace. It could be about joy. It could be about dealing with my character, dealing with my integrity. It could be dealing with so many different aspects of my life that I get a chance to learn in so many different rooms. You don't spend all of your life in one room. That's a cage. You don't spend all of your life on just one floor. You can go to various different rooms, take an elevator, go to higher heights, or go down to deeper depths, and that's where you learn. I'm Ed Montgomery. They call me Dr. Ed, and I'm going to be your guide. I'm going to help you learn how to use that master key. Let me tell you what I'm looking at today. It comes out of a passage of scripture. I call it ancient wisdom. The reason I call it ancient wisdom is because when we look at the Bible, when we look at this, what I call an ancient text, it's 2,000 years ago. And understand something that was written 2,000 years ago about people who lived 2,000 years ago with a history that even before them was like about years. I want you to imagine you and I sitting down writing some things, and then they read what we wrote, or maybe we're talking about ice cream, maybe we're talking about what laws they ought to pass this year, and so we write them down and they read them in the year 4000. Now we're not even thinking about people in the year 4000. We're thinking about ourselves. Same way 2,000 years ago, as the writers were writing, they were writing to their people. They were not thinking about possibly 2,000 years later or the year 2020. As a matter of fact, they didn't even think they were going to get that far. They thought Jesus was going to come back and their lives were going to be happy from that point on. And they got a rude awakening when Jesus did not come back in their lifetime, and some of those disciples and apostles began to die before Jesus returned, as they believed that's what he meant when he said he was coming back. They thought he meant it that particular way, and they got a rude awakening and they began to start shifting some of their doctrines. And all of this comes down to what we're calling how we relate to Christ, our belief system, our faith. And we're going to talk a little bit just about faith. It's not a long session. We're going to talk a little bit about who I am, how my faith relates to everyday living. How does something 2,000 years ago make sense to me right now about what is it about faith? Not only that, how does things relate to what's happening out here in our world right now? The world is changing. Life is changing. And we are beginning to see some things that we've never seen before. But let me bring you up to speed on this. 2,000 years ago, Matthew chapter 17, for those that are following me and following along with me, Matthew chapter 17. And you can read that in that whole chapter. It just a good flow to it. And Jesus has come down off of a mountain with 3 of his disciples. They were up there discussing something which is not relevant to what we're talking about right here. And as they came down, what happened, there was a sick boy, and mentally and emotionally he was just out of sorts, and the father was trying to get him cured. The other disciples were at the bottom of the mountain, and they were doing everything they could to cure this boy, to heal him, to cast out a devil, whatever they considered to be their medicine or their spirituality of that particular time. Jesus comes down, and the man turns to them, and he turns to him and says to Jesus, he said, "Lord, I brought my son here, and I didn't want to bother you. To your disciples, he's been going through this and going through that, but your disciples could not cure him. They could not cast him out. And Jesus looks at his disciples and understands something. This was not, Jesus was saying, it's not that they couldn't, because they had been doing this all along. Jesus had taught them and trained them, not by a class or a seminar or a conference, not information. This is how Jesus taught. He said, follow me, watch me, do what I do, even though you don't understand what I'm doing, just do it. If I stretch my hand out to him, do it. If I talk to him, do it. Learn, look at what I'm doing. And as time goes on, and you'll learn and understand what I'm doing. This is how he taught them. And they actually came back over the years, and they were telling him while he was on earth that we went and we cast out devils, we healed the sick, we did all these wonderful things. In other words, what you taught us worked. But in this particular incident with this child, everything they had learned flopped. It just fell flat. And the man was here with a real problem, a real child with a real issue, dealing with a real demon, and took him to the disciples who really thought they could do what they had claimed. They said we could do it. And when this real thing hit, the disciples fell flat. And so now we got a little boy that can't be cured, that cannot find peace because the disciples could not cure him. It's kind of like being in a generation, being where we are in our world right now. And when we really need our religion, when we really need our faith, when we need the kind of faith that can deal with this systemic racism, we have people even in the church that are saying it doesn't exist. We still have preachers that are making mistakes in their wording, speaking of slavery as white blessing and white privilege and things of this sort. And, well, I didn't mean it that way, or I didn't mean it that way. Well, what way did you mean? See, and for so long, we have been sitting back in our conversation with each other just to get along and to smile and to have a little favor with each other, to keep the doors of communication open. For our own people not to get upset at us because they think we're getting a little bit too angry. Can you imagine how it feels to have to always not speak so loud, or maybe be a little bit more quiet because you might think we're angry, black angry, and that's not what the case is. I'm passionate about what I do, and many of you are too. How many of you are passionate about what you do? Yeah, I'm passionate. You're passionate about your business, passionate about your faith. And so Jesus is expecting his disciples to do it. Now notice what he says. Here's what he says. He turns to them and he says, "Oh, faithless." And you'll find this probably Matthew chapter 17, probably around verse 10, and from there all the way down to verse 17, 18, 19. He says, "Oh, faithless and perverse," not pervert, perverse generation. That word perverse is key here, because it means distorted. Your truths are distorted. Your generation with truths, but they're flipped upside down. They're distorted. And the reason your truths are distorted, you can't deal with untruth when your truths are distorted. You can't deal with a lie when your truth is distorted. You can't uncover something when you've been all of these years. So Jesus is saying that your truth is distorted. Not only that, but your faith is less than what it's supposed to be. Faithless generation. He says, have I been with you so long? I've been with you all of this time. And he says to him, he says to the father, concerning the child, bring him to me. Now, that statement says boatloads to me. Let me tell you why. Because Jesus said, bring him to me. In other words, he had said they were faithless, which meant they had the potential to cast out the demon, but they couldn't. And there was a reason why they couldn't. We're in a generation right here where we are in the middle of being able to, if not cast out racism, we're going to pull up that tree by its roots. We're shaking that tree. And we're not just dealing with the fruit, but we're going after the root. And believe me, when you see how Jesus had dealt with this demon, it started screaming and things of that sort. Believe me, racism is not going to go that easy. If you think you're going to be able to give some kind words and just, and just love God and love Jesus and let's all just join hands and be nice with each other and that it's all going to go away. No, it's not going to go away that fast. It's not going to go away that easy. Not this time. Because we've got to get down into the root of what we believe and why we believe it. When you go all the way back in history, and the reason that you say, well, why do you keep going back into slavery, going back into the Revolutionary War, going back into how the founding fathers, what they believed and their kind of faith and everything? Because that's where it all started. That's where the seeds of all of this happened. I can look at you. Jesus is saying, bring him to me. In other words, you should have been able to do this. He said, because I taught you how to do this. I taught you to be like me. Look at this now. I taught you, to the disciples, to be like me. How many times have you heard people, I want to be like Christ. I want to be like Jesus. But slaves were not taught to be like Jesus, because to be like Jesus would mean they could be like the master, or the master of that particular plantation. And to be the master of that particular plantation would mean they'd have wealth, they would have power, and they would have the hope of owning whatever they could own. That couldn't be. So they were not taught to be like Jesus. They were taught that Jesus was God and they were to serve him, and that he or they, the slaves, were the children, were Jesus's children. And Jesus was juxtaposed and composited and artistically created to be the master. And this is how things began. So the slave was not taught to be like Jesus, because that would be impossible. That would mean to be white, or to be of another race, or to be of a different color than what they could only hope for one thing. And that is one day when they went to heaven, they could put on a long white robe, put on golden slippers, and walk streets of gold. But that's not enough. That's not enough. Jesus came to teach us that we are to be not just like him, but to be as him in this earth. That when you see our hands, you're seeing the hands of Jesus. When you see our face, you see the face of Jesus. When we give, when we help the homeless, we're seeing that's the hand of Jesus. And we are to be able to so identify that we are the walking example of God in this planet. And Jesus is saying, so that when things happen in this planet, when it's time to fix something, to fix the government, to fix society, and they bring a broken system to you, a broken society, broken sociology, broken economics, broken religion, when they bring it to you, Jesus saying, I don't want to hear them say that you guys couldn't cast it out. This generation, faithless, perverse generation, distorted generation in your thinking and your teaching, you can't cast it out. No, be like me. Cast it out. It bugged those disciples to no end. I promise you, it bugged the mess out of them. Jesus cast the demon out. I think that's where we left off last week. And I'm getting ready to give you the key that's going to help you unlock this. And they went to Jesus, and after he had left the scene, they're walking back to Jesus' house. And just as they got to Jesus' house, they went in. And they asked him the question. They said, Master. See, a change of thing. Don't think master slave. Don't think those things. They were thinking he's their master teacher, and that's why they said master to him. See, this is how we have to flip that thinking around. They were his apprentices. He was that master craftsman. And they said to him, why couldn't we cast it out? And Jesus turns and says to them, because of your unbelief. Bam. What are you talking about? What in the world is unbelief? I'm going to give you a quick understanding of unbelief. It'll change your life. You'll never forget what I'm getting ready to teach you now. Just before I go into it, just before I do it, don't forget, this coming Sunday, I'm going to be dealing. I'm going to be dealing with these. I don't like to call them supernatural Sundays, but I call them sensational Sundays. Sunday morning, 10:30 a.m. Be here on time, because we get right into it. This is not a long, drawn-out thing, but we get right in. And not only that, I want to say thank you for your gifts. Thank you for what you do. Those of you who are new for the first time, just type in new. Just say new, or just type in my first time. I'm asking our people, if you will get a hold of people, just grab them from all backgrounds, cultures, races, religion. If you got a friend, if you don't have a friend, if you got a friend that's white, you got a friend that's Latino, Asian, grab them. Bring them to class on Wednesday. If you don't have one, you go make one and go find one. Now it's time for you to go get you a friend somewhere that's a different color than you. Just go and say, listen, be my friend. Listen, what are you talking? Just be my friend. Listen, they'll listen to you right now. Everything. So make sure you keep supporting us. Go to myalc.org. That's where you can catch this show on myalc.org. That's our website, myalc.org. Or you can go to our, you can text to give, text $5, $10, $2, whatever you want to do. And you can text it to 713-742. Did I get that right?
Yes, 742.
I do this all the time, don't I?
Yes.
I do it. 713-742-2035. Look on your screen. I promise you it's there. 713-742-2035. And you can text your amount there. My mind's in one place. I promise you. I know you're going to give. I know you're going to keep everything supported. This unbelief thing. Here it is. Most of the time, we think that, I had it, but I'm not going to go. Most of the time, we think that faith and having faith is acquiring a bunch of different kind of beliefs. I believe that ice is cold. And you go in and says, well, I believe this ice cube is colder than this ice cube. And so you're feeling both of them. They both feel the same way. But you just are so adamant that this ice cube is colder than this one. So you're trying to make yourself believe that this ice cube is colder than this ice cube. Same ice cube from the same ice tray. Both the same water. But you're saying it feels colder to my touch, my hand. It's not melting as fast. And you're making yourself believe, I believe this ice is colder. I believe this ice cube is colder. I believe. And so you put that thing into your mind to believe that. And then you find something else. I believe that dog is cuter. I believe that dog is cuter. That dog is cuter. So you have all these beliefs. They say beauty is in the eye of the beholder. For some guy, that girl looks cuter than the other one, or that girl looks better than the other one. It's all in the matter of test, or vice versa. That girl says that guy, oh, look at his hair, oh, look at his skin, and it's in the eye of the beholder. But when you don't not necessarily there with that person, and other people are saying, oh well, they all right. And you're trying to make yourself, oh no, they're cute. Well, yeah, they're cute. And you're making yourself believe something. That's belief. That's what they call is mental assent. It is taking a bunch of information and making yourself believe it. It's like trying to make yourself believe God is real. God is real. God is real. Jesus loved me, this I know. Jesus loved me, for the Bible tells me. And you're trying to make yourself believe. And we call that faith. So we walk around with all of these different things in our head. And when somebody comes along and says something to us that's contrary to what we just been trying to make us, and says, that ice is not colder, then we're going to fight. We're ready to fight. Oh, no, you can't make me believe. And then we will go into this long thing about why that can't be true. That's mental assent. The word belief comes from a Greek word, pisteo. It came out of a Latin word, which when you get back to the Aramaic, which Jesus spoke, the word belief or the word faith does not mean mental things that we're trying to make ourselves accept. It means trust. To believe God means, do I trust God? To believe in you, and if I say, hey, I believe in you, in its original wording, I'm saying, do I trust you? I believe I can walk the water. But trust is putting your feet on the water and beginning that process and doing it. Listen. Yeah, I know. That's my buzzer. And you know what that means. But doubt is different, because doubt means a bunch of other information coming in there, cluttering up everything. Unbelief is dangerous because it's peeling back our lack of trust. Something has happened to mess up my trust. And that's why mountains can't move. That's what stops impossible things from happening. This is what America has to understand. This is what your police departments have to understand. When you lose the trust of your people, the social contract, when you see the house of black people on fire, and you out taking your fire truck trying to put out or just hose down another house that's not even on fire, When you're in church and you're dealing with issues that have nothing to do with issues, when you're just trying to save souls to get them to go to heaven, and you got other Christians, people who love God, who are just trying to live and make a decent life for their children and wishing for their young black boys to be able to come home. You got to ask yourself the question. When you break that trust, you're breaking faith. And when you break faith, you take away the ability to move mountains. So I'm going to say something to you. Continue to build your trust in God. But don't stop working. Let that faith, that trust in God, work through you, through your hands, Christ, to be able to fix your system. Politicians, don't give up. Preachers, don't stop preaching. Teachers, don't stop teaching. Black, white, Latino, Asian, don't stop talking to each other. Because the more we talk to each other, and don't get teed off at me either, just talk to me. Stick with me. You don't like the teaching? Hey, hang with it again. Hang with me Sunday. Try again. And let's see whether we can come out of this unbelief and begin to move some mountains. I think we can. Anybody got any questions? Of course, this is my Master Key class. If you got any questions, I'm going to scroll through, type them in. I'm going to scroll through and try something different this week. See if I can answer those questions, and we'll answer some of those questions next week. And so type them in. Okay? All right. Listen, my time's up. I know you got other places you're going to scroll. So do your thing. All right. Bye-bye.